All right, let's talk about a technology that is quite literally all around us. It's already changing how we shop, how we drive, even how we find new music. We're talking about machine learning. And really, it all comes down to one big idea. What if we could teach computers to learn from data so they could start predicting the future?
You know that feeling, right? You're browsing an online store and it's like it's reading your mind. It keeps suggesting the exact thing you didn't even know you were looking for. How does it do that?
Well, the answer is just two words: machine learning. And no, it's not a person in the background handpicking those items for you. It's a smart algorithm that's learned from your data and millions of other people's data to make a seriously good guess about what you'll love. So, what is this thing really? Is it magic? Not quite. In this first part, let's crack the code and figure out what we're actually talking about here. This right here gives you the perfect lay of the land. You see, machine learning isn't its own separate thing. It's a huge, powerful part of the much bigger world of artificial intelligence. And then, inside machine learning, you've got even more specialized tools, like deep learning. Think of it like a set of Russian nesting dolls. AI is the biggest doll, you open it up and find machine learning, and inside that, you find deep learning. And this is the absolute key to everything. See, traditional programming meant you had to write out every single rule for the computer. If this happens, then do that. Machine learning just completely flips the script. We don't give it rules anymore. We give it examples, tons and tons of examples, and we let the machine figure out the patterns all by itself. But hold on a minute. The ideas behind AI aren't new. They've been around since the 1950s. So why is machine learning suddenly exploding right now? Well, it's all thanks to a perfect storm of technology that finally came together. It wasn't just one thing. It was a whole recipe for revolution. I mean, think about it. We finally got processors powerful enough to handle the number crunching. Storage became so cheap we could save massive, massive amounts of data, which is the fuel for this whole engine. Then you add in open source code so everyone could share their work, and new tools to actually see what the algorithms were doing. It was all of these things hitting at the same time that really lit the fuse. Okay, so we know what it is and why it's happening now, but the big question remains, how does a machine actually learn? It sounds kind of mysterious, but it really boils down to three main styles, or you could call them three core flavors of learning. First up, we've got supervised learning. With this one, you get to be the teacher. You give the machine a huge data set where you've already labeled all the correct answers. You're basically giving it a giant cheat sheet to study from before it has to take a test. The best way to think about this is like teaching a kid with flashcards. You show them a picture of a cat, and you say, cat. You show them a picture of a dog, and you say, dog. Do that thousands of times, and pretty soon they learn to tell the difference. This is exactly how we teach computers to spot spam in your inbox or to forecast the weather by looking at historical data. All right, next up is unsupervised learning. Now, what happens when you don't have a cheat sheet? Well, with this method, you just dump a whole mess of unlabeled data on the machine and you tell it, go find the hidden patterns. It has to figure out the structure all on its own. For this one, think of a detective who gets a big box of random evidence from a crime scene. No instructions, no labels. They just start grouping similar photos, clustering receipts, looking for connections. That's what unsupervised learning does. And it's incredibly useful for things like finding new customer groups you didn't know existed, or spotting subtle patterns in medical data that could point to a disease. And our third and final flavor is reinforcement learning. This one is all about learning by doing, specifically through trial and error. The algorithm tries to reach a goal, and along the way, it gets rewards for good moves and penalties for bad ones. It learns from the consequences of its own actions. The perfect analogy here is training a dog. When it sits, you give it a treat. It quickly learns that the action of sitting leads to a reward. That's exactly how we teach a robot to climb stairs, rewarding it for every successful step. And on a way, way more complex level, it's a key technology behind self-driving cars. So we have these three really powerful ways of learning. But how do we get from these abstract ideas to actually solving real problems out there in the world? Let's look at a few amazing examples of ML at work. Every business wants to keep its customers, right? Well, instead of just guessing, ML models act like an early warning system. They can analyze a customer's purchase history, their support calls, everything, and predict if they're about to leave. This gives the company a chance to step in and offer a solution before they lose that customer for good.
Now, in law enforcement, the impact is just massive. This is where deep learning really comes into play, using these things called neural networks, which are kind of modeled after the human brain. You can train a model on millions of faces and then have it scan security footage to help identify suspects. It's doing something that was basically science fiction just a few years ago. And what about keeping people safe? Think about a factory or an airplane engine. A single part failing can be a total disaster. Machine learning is like a fortune teller for machines. It listens to all the data coming off the sensors, vibrations, temperature, and can spot tiny changes that signal a failure is coming. This lets teams do maintenance before the accident ever happens. Okay, so this is all happening right now, but this field is moving at an incredible speed. So, what's just around the corner? In our last section, let's take a quick peek at the road ahead.
So, where are we heading? Pretty soon, we won't even talk about using machine learning. It'll just be invisibly baked into almost every app we use. These apps will constantly get smarter because their models will be learning from new data in real time. Getting access to this kind of power will be as easy as using any other service in the cloud. And maybe the coolest part? As computers get better and better at understanding us when we talk, the whole idea of a keyboard and mouse might start to look pretty old-fashioned.
So all of this brings us to one last, really big question. We've built machines that can learn from our data. They can predict, they can identify, they can even create. As we stand here at the beginning of this new age, the power is really in our hands. So, what is the most important thing we should teach them next?